my goodness, I cannot express to you how frustrated I am. This is take number 5 for this episode. 5. Welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast, or welcome to the Range Minded Podcast. Grateful to have you guys here. My name is Steve Zimmerman. My goal with this podcast is to talk about all things Second Amendment, whether it be guns and gizmos and laws and whatever. Just kind of anything that encompasses the Second Amendment. Now, I mentioned with my frustrated voice that this is the 5th time I've tried to record an episode. 5th time. The first 2 times, that was several days ago. It's Sunday. I think as of right now, it's the 5th, Tuesday of May. The first 2 times I recorded a show, I got probably a half an hour-ish into it, and I hated it. If you're a content creator, you kind of know, or any kind of creator, a artist, whatever, you kind of know the feeling. You get to the point where you're doing something and you just hate it. You hate it. Something was so off with that episode, I tossed it. I threw it away because it actually sucked. It sucked. So I tried it again, same night. Worked on episode, whatever we are. I don't even know. My brain is not working right now. I started that very same script for that episode all over again. Same thing. I got into it. I think my computer froze, which also pissed me off. We'll get to that too. And I was just so frustrated. And again, it just felt wrong. It didn't feel good. It didn't flow. It just, it sucked. It sucked. I'm not going to lie. And so I ditched it. I threw it away. It's gone. Bye-bye. So I tried again. Monday. Same issue. No, I didn't. Today's Tuesday. I didn't do it last night. I got getting ready to record, and nothing. Brain was not working. So, again, here it is, Tuesday night, 11 o'clock at night. I said, okay, well, actually, it was about 10:30 when I started the one before this. Start yapping, computer froze up. Took a dump on me. So awesome. I think I know what it is. I really need to. I just got too much crap on one of the main hard drive or whatever. I need to move it to the other one that's got more space. I think that's causing the freeze ups. So I need to spend some time just tidying things up. Kind of like our lives, right? You just got to tidy up. So let's try this again. Sorry I missed last week. This past week has been, I don't know how to say it. You probably hear the fan going on the computer. I got the coolers cranking. So if you hear a fan in the background, that's what it is. Last week, work has just got me kind of stressed. That's probably all I'm going to say about that. That's it. Actually, I'm not going to go any farther than that. So my mind has been drastically occupied by other things. One thing, you guys are probably wondering, Steve, why have you not been talking about? There's been a lot of things going on. So the assassination attempt at the correspondence dinner on President Trump. Why haven't you been talking that? Why haven't you been talking about the 34 changes in the rules from the ATF? By the way, sounds like there's 14 more they're going to change, something like that. The reason why I haven't really chimed in on either of those two things is because everybody else has. And it's not that I don't think my takes might be interesting, my perspective might be interesting, but my heavens, that it is an oversaturated amount of videos and commentary. It's not that I don't want to compete with it. I just don't. There's so many other things we can talk about. And maybe there are other things that we should be talking about that are going on while those things are happening. Kind of the whole pay no attention about of the man behind the curtain kind of thing. Kind of. Yes, I'm tired and my tongue doesn't work very well. And because of that, I'm going to drink a ginger beer. And my tummy's upset. All I had was a grilled cheese sandwich, and why is my stomach upset? Oh, first world problems, right? First world problems. I'll tell you what. I'll chime in on both of these two things just a little bit. So you can get my take, my perspective, the way I see it. Yeah, let's talk about the assassination attempt. So we see gun control in action. Because okay. So homie, I don't remember the dude's name. I don't care what his name is. Honestly, I don't care about this individual. I'm not going to give him any kind of publicity. He doesn't deserve it. He's a mentally deficient individual that feels like his place in history is to start a revolution. So I will not give him the credit or the benefit of mentioning his name. He probably was going to vote for that retard Katie Porter anyways. I almost called her Katy Perry. It's probably about the same mental capacity. So here's this homie, teacher of the year, student. He's got some great education. He's a video game designer. Yeah, okay, so you can see I have looked into it just a touch. Video game designer. He created some kind of a thing for a wheelchair that was on PBS or CBS News or something. Did a segment on it. I didn't know that till later on. I think I saw that on Twitter. So this guy seems like he's pretty squared away, other than he's a teacher in California, which Californians, man, like, you better look into your teaching pool. So he feels like, man, we got a pedophile in the White House, a rapist, blah, blah. So all these talking points had made this guy go absolutely nuts. And I guarantee he's not alone. There are many, many people that feel that way. Spend 5 seconds on Twitter, or not Twitter, but TikTok. It's an infestation. So this guy buys 2 California compliant firearms and a bunch of knives, like a weirdo. I like knives too, so I guess I'm the weirdo too. So he buys looks like a Rock Island 1911. I think that's what it looks like. It's a budget-friendly 1911. And he buys a Maverick 88, which is a Mossberg. It's the cheaper Mossberg, 500 or whatever. Anyway, budget-friendly firearms. I doubt he did much, if any, training. He probably didn't over-plan this situation, other than, sounds like he was there at the hotel for a couple nights before. Kind of odd. I found an issue. Anyway, California compliant guns, 7-round magazine in the 1911, and he probably had the plug in the Maverick 88. So at most 5 rounds, could be less. Sounds like reports anyway were that he got 1 round out of the Maverick and couldn't or didn't pump the next one in, which is probably a good thing. A shotgun in the right hands. Gotta be careful how I say this. Shotguns are very versatile and useful if you know how to use them. I'd like to learn more how to use them, honestly. Anyway, so, and I don't know if he shot I don't know if he got his 1911 out. The video is kind of weird that was released of him rushing the, scusi, metal detector. Mi scusi. Boy, that goes back to Euro trip. Mi scusi. Don't watch it if you haven't. Or do watch it. It's funny. So, sorry. Brain is fried. It's the medication. So here he is. He stays at the hotel with his California compliant guns that are are within the bounds of gun control. So if gun controllers are bitching about it, they're stupid, because this is within the bounds. It doesn't stop mass shootings, obviously, because California, Chicago, and Baton Rouge, and apparently Kansas, a campground in Kansas too. But I digress. So this dude rushes this metal detector, blasts off at least one round. Again, I remember. I'd have to watch the video again. Did he use the handgun? I heard he used the shotgun. Made it through this barricade of highly trained and skilled federal and local law enforcement officers. And we were told originally that he was tackled, but I had heard yesterday Kyle Seraphin said something about that he tripped and just happened to fall and then got tackled on the floor. I don't know. That's just hearsay. I can't corroborate that. I haven't corroborated that yet, I should say. But just do me a favor. I'm not going to share the video here. It's everywhere. But watch that video of him rushing the metal detector and the group there. Obviously, you can see the situational awareness of the two-legged officers. There's a reason why I said the two-legged officers. Watch the situational awareness of all the two-legged officers at that checkpoint. And there's several. If my memory serves me right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 7 or 8 dudes, maybe 9 dudes or dudettes there at that checkpoint. The only officer to raise any sort of awareness and had the spidey tinglies going off was the dog. Watch the video. The dog sees the dude in where the doorway that he comes out of. So he must be in this hallway or some kind of a corridor, vestibule thing or whatever. But the dog walks in there, is giving attention to the would-be shooter, or I guess he did shoot. And the handler was like, come on. The dog did that twice. Was kind of raising awareness to this dude. And the canine handler ignored him. Ignored the dog. And then, 3 seconds after the dog handler pulls the dog down the hallway, homie runs around the corner, rushes the checkpoint. You see the officer on the bottom of the video point his gun. He had his gun out, but it doesn't look like he pulls the trigger. There's another guy there on the bottom who looks like he does shoot, and I think he shoots the agent on, I guess if you're watching the video, it would be kind of diagonally up to the right. You can see as he clears his suit, it looks like he gets shot in the chest. I think the Secret Service shot the other Secret Service agent. I don't think the bad guy did it. I could be wrong. But I want you to spay new to your pets, folks. Pay special attention to the 3 female officers leaning against the wall near the door where he ran out. They did nothing. Nothing. They watched the entire time. Nothing. You think the police are going to save you in a situation? You think you have time to wait for the crackpot police officers who are trained? I know I'm going to make some of my law enforcement friends mad with this one. Are they going to save you? Listen, it takes the average response time, I think, in the United States right now is 7 minutes. And that is in a somewhat, not a metropolitan area, somewhat crowded. If it's rural, if you lived where I lived and you got a 7-minute response time, that means they were fairly close, like on patrol. Because in my county where I live, there's places it would probably take an hour for the sheriff's office to respond to you. Maybe 45 minutes. unless they have somebody out there on patrol that happens to be close to you. Let's go with 7 minutes. Let's go with 5 minutes. Let's give the most positive outcome possible with a response to a phone call. Let's say 5 minutes. Raise your hand if you guys have ever done jiu-jitsu. Raise your hand if you've ever wrestled. Raise your hand if you've ever boxed. Or any martial art, for that matter. 5 minutes on the mat, nonstop, full energy. How are you feeling after that 5 minutes? 5 minutes is a long time. When I was doing jiu-jitsu, I need to get back at it. We would do 2-minute sparring matches. 2 minutes. And I'm telling you, of course, I'm fat and out of shape. 2 minutes is a long freaking time to wrestle and to try and get away and to try and not get tapped, right? That is, 2 minutes is a long time. But 5 minutes, whew. Like I say, I think the average, maybe it's 11 minutes now, but the average I want to say was 7 minutes. If you fact check me, that's fine. I don't care. My point is still there. Anyway, back to the dude from Cali. So, kind of weird, kind of interesting. But we might learn more later on. I don't know. That's just my opinions on it. That's my perspective on it. Gun control is not meant to stop these kind of things. It's kind of meant to make these situations worse, I think, and to piss people off to the point of doing dumb things. And then when dumb things happen, people get more agitated, and then other people, in response to a dumb thing, do another dumb thing. And then eventually confiscation happens and we don't have our rights. I think that's kind of what it boils down to. They're turning the frogs gay. Yeah, it's kind of an Alex Jones moment, right? All right, let's talk about... I told you my brain's not working. I have no script, by the way. This is all just kind of fly by the seat of my pants here. Let's talk about the ATF's new rules real quick. Okay, first off, foremost, I want to put this out there to you. The ATF is an agency that is involved in enforcing laws, or in some case rules, right? But they have the force of law behind them, right? They do not make laws. The ATF is not a law-making organization. They are a law-enforcing organization, a branch of the Department of Justice. Who makes the laws then? The DOJ? No. Congress makes laws. Now, what does this mean with these new rules? There are some cool things that came out with these rule changes. So it looks like bump stocks are okay. Shoulder braces, that's how they get you. Arm braces, they're okay. There's a caveat to the arm brace thing. Actually, let me talk about this really, really, really fast. The arm brace issue. So, if you remember back a few weeks ago, we talked, or maybe we didn't. You probably saw it where a Texas, was it the 5th district said something about, how do I want to say this? Spit it out, Steve-O. The ATF said they're still going to enforce portions of the arm brace thing, right? People were freaking out. They said, that was, the Supreme Court said, don't. You can't enforce that. Here's what in my understanding, here's what the ATF was talking about. If you modified your arm brace in any way to make it outside of its original configuration and more like a stock, they would enforce the SBR thing against you. Now that SBR shouldn't even be a thing. I get it, but they're still an NFA item, as we see right now. So that means don't be an idiot. Don't modify your arm brace to be more like a stock and you won't get nailed for the SBR thing. That's the way I understand it. Anyway, so ATF made all these sweet rule changes, arm braces. As long as a device doesn't turn your firearm into full auto, it's cool. That's fine. The idea of, this is pretty sweet, the idea of having a firearm mailed to your home instead of going through an FFL, awesome. Your background check is lasts 90 days, so if you want to buy more than one gun, you can. Your background check that you took a month ago is still valid. That's awesome. I like that. And there's a few other things. Sounds like they're worried about reciprocity was kind of mixed in there a little bit, but obviously that's something that has to come through Congress. There was a few other things. Things, for the most part, sounded good. I'm not poo-pooing them. I kind of like Mr. Sakata, the new ATF director. I watched the briefing with these 34 new changes. There were some things that they said that where I was kind of wondering, what's going on? But once I read the letter, now that the ATF publishes kind of very mile high view of what each rule change was, not actual solid language in what they're changing. For the most part, good. And again, what did I say at the beginning of this segment? Congress needs to make the laws that change. Once we get a new director in, he can simply, or she can simply, change the rules. Until they're fortified by law, and that way it puts a leash at the very limit, at least, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, at least puts a leash on the ATF and keeps them from doing radical things. Rules are rules, and they can be broken and they can be changed. Laws have to be passed in Congress. Now, the president has the ability to say, look, this needs to change, and Congress can act. Now is one of the most favorable Congresses that we've had since the last Trump administration, and surprise, Las Vegas happened, things change. So don't be surprised if, something terrible happens and we all have our hearts and minds around an event that has many people giving up their liberties. Steve, that never happens. Just don't look at 9/11. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, we're still talking about the rule changes. Sorry, I was making sure my computer didn't freeze up like the last few times. And it was just that my mouse went to sleep. I about swore, you guys. You heard naughty, naughty words come out of my mouth. So, DOJ, or ATF, I'm glad you made some rule changes. Again, I like Sakata. He seems like a cool dude. Apparently, he's a firearms owner. He's probably the most... at least from what we have seen so far, he is probably the most 2A friendly director that may have ever been in the ATF. We've dodged a huge bullet with, what's his name? Mr. Ruby Ridge and Waco himself. What was that fat guy's name? And then we got Dettelbach, which, whatever. And Dettelbach's crackpot number one agent that couldn't tear apart a Glock. That was freaking hilarious. The problem is with some of these agencies, especially the ATF, honestly, some of the field guys, like the local field office guys, they're pretty cool. I met when I was doing retail and some other stuff, actually watching acquisition and disposition books, A&D books for a living. Many interactions I've had with some of the local field agents, and they're pretty cool. One of them we had in Boise there was he was very pro 2A. He didn't want suppressors on the Nodula. He's like, man, I wish we would pass the Hearing Protection Act. This is years ago, before Las Vegas shooting. So I wish they would pass the Hearing Protection Act or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's what it was called back then. There'd be so much less work for me, and I agreed with him, and we laughed, and we had a really fun time. Whatever, Steve. Whatever. I told you my brain is not functioning right now. So, did you guys see? That was a terrible segue. Let's see. What's a good segue? Speaking of Department of Justice, have you guys see what Harmeet Dillon did to Denver? Probably, but if not, this is actually hilarious. So this was one of the things I was trying to get published, but did not work so well. So on the 28th of April, Harmeet Dillon sent, let's see, let me make sure I do this right. Harmeet Dillon sent Denver, the city of Denver, the mayor and the police, Denver PD, a cute love letter. Basically, you're welcome to read this. I'm not going to read this whole letter. That I was going to, but for the sake of all of our sanities, I'm not. Basically, what Harmeet Dillon said is, "Dear Denver, I hate your stinking guts. You are the scum between my toes." Basically, but really what she was saying is, listen, Denver, the Supreme Court said the assault weapons bans are unconstitutional. The Supreme Court, not district courts, Supreme Court. And so you need to stop enforcing the assault weapons ban and the high capacity magazine bans because we said so. And we're the federal government. And you're impeding on the Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Denver. P.S. I know you're going to... I know that you really, really, really want to follow these rules because we're the feds and we care about the rights of all citizens, including the ones in your used to be blue, beautiful city. So Denver's like, let's see, how do we respond? And Denver did respond. Check this out. Denver says, "Dear Darla," no, I should have said, "Dear Harmeet," or is that how you say her name? "Dear Mrs. Dillon." How's that? No, we don't care about the rights of our citizens. We care about their safety and not their freedom, which is a nice way of saying, F you, we don't care about rights. So Denver says, we are not going to enforce, or we are not going to withdraw the enforcement of our assault weapons ban and our high capacity magazine ban. Basically, what this letter says, if you're like I said, you're free to read it. Need to scoot it up. There's a lot more in there. Let me do this. I probably should shrink it down. Basically, man, this is really, really great content when I have to shift things around. Basically, what Denver says is, okay, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to continue to enforce the law. Denver is the safest city in America with a huge crime reduction, and it's all because we took civil liberties away from our citizens. And district courts said we could do it. So we don't care what the Supreme Court says. We're going to do it anyway. Well, something happened today. And that thing that happened today, I probably don't have it pulled up now. Basically, Harmeet Dillon and the Department of Justice said, okay. And they filed a lawsuit against Denver. They went through with it, unlike so many previous administrations or directors. They did it. They did it. They decided to take Denver to court. This should get interesting. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Actually, I know who would have posted it. I know Denver's super blue, right? And there's no way around it. We know that Denver is just a cluster. Alicia, I always get her name wrong, and she probably gets pissed when I get it wrong. She posted. Now I gotta find it. Okay. Second Amendment Foundation. She reposted something from the Second Amendment Foundation. This is their post on X. Let's see here. By the way, you can find me on X at RangeMinded. So, Alicia reposted this from Second Amendment Foundation. And guess what? Boom. That's right. Screw you, Denver. And the grass-fed horse you rode in on. We'll see how this goes. I'm really, really curious. I'm sure this is going to be shared and talked about quite a bit in this 2A circles over the next little while. It should be entertaining. It'd be great for Denver. It'd be great for the citizens of Denver. I get it. You know, they had the movie house shooting. What was that in Aurora, just outside of Denver, right? I understand the manipulated fear that went on there to get people emotionally engaged in getting rid of those scary assault rifles and those high capacity magazines, which are really standard capacity magazines. I get it. I can see why they did it, because it's an emotional thing, and some of those folks there had family members die. I understand it. I can see why you would feel that way. But again, some special needs teacher got on a bus with guns that had 7 rounds and 5 rounds and tried to kill everyone but Kash Patel that was on this list. I thought that was kind of weird, huh? Tell me again how gun control works. Again, it has nothing to do with the gun. It has everything to do with control. You know, I watched this video today. Side note, there's something wrong with me. I watched this video today because I'm doing some research on an idea for another episode, which I think actually be pretty entertaining because I couldn't find anything like it out there in full. That's all I'm going to talk to you about it. It should be interesting. Nonetheless, it was about gun control. How's that for a teaser? And so I watched this guy he called himself a moderate, and the video is about 7 years old about gun control. And he shared about 13 seconds of a Louder with Crowder segment about the Second Amendment. And then he went off on all these ridiculous tropes about why we need to get rid of the guns. That wasn't a moderate view. It was a leftist view on the Second Amendment. And then he tried to say that no point in history, in American history, did it say that Americans should have assault rifles. There was no repeating rifles at that time because he didn't do research. He didn't know about some of the stuff that existed back then. And then he pulls up the Bible and he says, if it's a God-given right, how come when I read the Bible it says nothing about guns? That was the intellectual backing of his argument right there. In that little thing about there's no guns in the Bible, so how can it be a God-given right? Clearly, homie, there's not going to be guns in the Bible. They didn't exist at that point. But I bet if you looked at the Old Testament and the swords and stones and spears and bows and arrows, I bet you could find some information on those. And as far as the individual right, he said that the people, at no point did the founders want the people to have the right. It was for the militia only. What is the composition of the militia? And if you did about 10 minutes of research, sir, you would have found in the Militia Act and other supporting documents that the militia is made up of the people. Are you saying that at least 18-year-old able-bodied men were required to have guns? Oh, and by the way, it says arms. The Second Amendment says nothing about guns. It says arms. And in the Militia Act, it talks about what it means to be armed for weapons of offense and defense. They were supposed to have a musket with so much shot, so much powder. They were also supposed to have a knife. Knives are covered under the Second Amendment. Anyway, maybe I should do a breakdown of that video. That gave me an aneurysm. And maybe that's what's wrong with me tonight. It was... all I wanted to do was find research about gun control, and I decided I would give this guy benefit of my doubts. I should have trusted my doubts. All right. Let me talk to you about something else that happened. You know, maybe this is just kind of the contributing or what started the whole stressful situation for me. A few weeks ago, I don't know if I even talked about it. I probably did. I went to Canada. So we had to travel for Canada for work and to check out a machine that's actually pretty interesting. But it's something we want to implement in the manufacturing business that I deal with. And, sorry, it's just, yeah. So we go to Canada, and before we went, I'm like, all right, we're driving across the border. We didn't fly, we drove. It was about 9.5 hours, 10 hours from where I live. So not bad. I mean, some people say 10 hours is a lot of driving. It's not bad. I drove from freaking Brownells in Iowa to my house, 21 hours, which included a detour to Buc-ee's in Colorado, because by hell, I'm not missing a Buc-ee's. 21 hours, maybe 22 hours, non-stop, but for fuel by far. That was a lot of drive. I was super tired when we got home. Not the smartest thing. I guess what I'm saying is 10 hours I can make in a day, no big deal. I didn't drive. Personally. Anyway, I should probably tell you what I'm trying to get at with this story. So, before I went, I was like, okay, I know I can't take my handgun into Canada. I wasn't going to even bother trying to stuff my EDC, because my luck is we've got a random check, and guess who's in a Canadian prison? Which may not be bad, because it would be like ham and maple syrup. So it probably wouldn't be terrible. But I didn't want to deal with that. So I knew, okay, got to leave the gun home, even though majority of it, like probably 80% of it is driving in the United States. 70%. I'd be in the United States and I could totally carry, but the minute I crossed that imaginary line with the checkpoint and a grumpy person in a booth, I would have been breaking their federal laws. So I had to do some research, do some Googleizing, do some grokalizing, trying to find what life-saving tools I could take across the border without any issues. So, again, guns, you can take a gun across the border, but you can't have it in Canada. So if I was going to Alaska, I could do that, but I'd have to have it locked up, inaccessible, and I have to obviously declare it at the border, which I get. Canada's gun laws are, they're gross. But I wasn't going to Alaska. So guns, no. Okay, I knew that was out of the question. Even ammunition. I can't tell you how many times I checked every bag I took to make sure I didn't even have ammunition in my bag. Or spent casing, any of that crap. So then I decided, okay, can I take a knife? Because I like having a knife. It's a good tool. No, I cannot take a knife because they're scary and they're bad. So I normally carry a Yojimbo. I love that knife. It's awesome. The Spyderco Yojimbo. Highly recommend it. Had to leave that here. Great, now I felt really naked. What about my utility knife? Well, when it said no knives, I was like, I'm not chancing it. No knives means no knives. So I even left a folding utility knife home because Canada. Now you might say, well, a utility knife is pretty pointless. I beg to differ. If that's... Utility knives are useful. Let's put it that way. So I had to stay home, which is fine, I guess. What's next? Pepper spray. Can I take pepper spray to Canada? Nope. The only pepper spray you can have has to be bear spray, and it has to be specifically labeled and marketed for that purpose. If you use pepper spray on an individual, that's assault, and that's a no-no in Canada, because if it's not maple syrup, it's too spicy. So I couldn't take pepper spray with me to Canada, which I was kind of disappointed. I thought, hell, I could at least take that. No, I couldn't. So what did that leave me with? It left me with a Kubotan, which is not my favorite. It's better than nothing. Or my pen, my tactical pen. So that's what I chose to take. I do have one of those markers, a Sharpie that's like the innards are taken out and has that G10 Sharpie point, which those are pretty handy. But I didn't want to take that because my luck, again, we would have got stopped and everything would have got checked. And they'd say, what's this, eh? And I would have to, it would have been a problem. So I was left with my fanny pack that had a mechanical pencil, which if I had to use, I could. It had a Milwaukee Sharpie, which I could probably do some things with that if I needed to. And my tactical pen, which I know in the right place, certain target in the right area would be effective. That's what I had. And again, like I said, most of our travel time was in the United States. So here I am traveling through these places, and I really felt naked, useless. It's frustrating. If you guys have ever traveled and you do have that mindset, It is super frustrating. If you don't have the mindset of being your own first responder, your immediate responder, if you want to look at it that way, you understand that there's a frustration there, which leads to what? So if I didn't have some very rudimentary understanding with how to use some things as impact devices, I would have been screwed, right? Like, I would have felt completely helpless. At least I knew how to use some of that stuff in some way, shape, or form. But it really comes down to two things, right? Your EDC, let's put it this way. Sometimes when we develop our EDC kits, right, we have our handgun that we appendix carry. We got our pepper spray that we put in our left pocket. We got our pocket knife we put in our right pocket. And then whatever else, right? Kevlar bracelet to get out of handcuffs, whatever. But then we get with that, I carry this specific set of tools every day for that scenario. What if none of those devices will fit the scenario that you have to be in for a specific purpose? That's what I almost feel like that would be a condition white idea of a EDC loadout. Because we've limited ourselves. I don't want to say a fantasy of what our self-defense situation might be like, but I guess it kind of is. And if we haven't developed other skill sets, whether it be open hand or some kind of other impact implements that you can, put on your person, you're kind of limited in what you can do. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of skills that carry on to other platforms. So I mentioned I carried my tactical pen. Some of the movements and targeting you do with a knife, not all, I get that, but some of them you can correlate with an impact weapon. Oh, I did have a flashlight. Made sure I took my flashlight. I think it was this flashlight, actually. My Surefire, with kind of a roughish bezel. When it comes to impact tools, some of the targeting that you use on edged weapons are very similar places that you want to target. Obviously, you're not going to inflict the same category of damage, but there's nerve structures or whatever that are useful to hit. If that makes any sense. But if you don't have that skill set or that knowledge, you're neutered. So what I'm saying is, long story to say this, you need to diversify your training. I need to diversify my training. I mean, this is a conversation here that goes two ways. I need to do the same thing because I kind of feel like I got stuck in that rut. And going to Canada, as much as I wanted to go to Canada, helped me see things from another perspective that I was too blindsided to see. A very myopic view about my EDC loadout. Do you guys get what I'm saying here? Am I just speaking to the clouds? Or did I kind of help you see things in a different perspective, that maybe it's time to diversify your training? And if we went down this hierarchy of, take this class first, take this class next, and you did like this critical path of education, which I'm sure people have, I still think you probably need to put medical at one of those first 2 to 3 classes that you need to take. Medical is so damn important because you're far more likely to come up on an accident or need to take care of a wound. You're far more likely to deal with stopping bleeding than you are to start bleeding. That's what she said also. So yeah, I definitely put, and maybe that's what I needed. Maybe we needed to create a critical path, I'm leaving that in. I'm not editing any of this. Critical path of your training. Now understand, some situations may vary. Your personal experiences might change what critical path you need to take. Example, like if you're a domestic abuse survivor or something like that, that might change some of the classes that you need to take in order. Definitely another one that you need to put in the very beginning, somewhere in there, to probably within the first 5 classes. Let's say that within the first 5 classes, you definitely need a medical class, right? You need to take a solid situational awareness class. That in itself, learning how to avoid the problem before it starts, man, that is so dang important. And a lot of times, like if you take I know when I teach the USCCA curriculum, by the way, USCCA, I've tried to reach out to you. I need to get my credentials re-upped. Come on. When I teach the USCCA curriculum, we do talk about situational awareness in the handgun concealed class, which is good because so stinking important. Why do you think you need to pay attention to the world around you? My gosh. The world is filled with people stuck in their device. And I'll tell you what, criminals love it when they can surprise you. Action is always faster than reaction. So, yeah, let's dive into this thought process. We got a few minutes left. So, with first 5 classes, you can pick the order, I suppose. Medical, situational awareness. You need to take a basic handgun class. Even if you've taken a basic handgun class, you need to take another basic handgun class. I know some of you guys are real operators out there, but you need to understand any of these classes that we're talking about. If we're just focused on those first 5, any of those, it's totally okay to take more than once. It's totally cool. because the information you may have got from Steve teaching you a basic handgun class might be different than one you might get from, I don't know, Brandon Herrera. That was the first name that came to mind. That would probably be a pretty interesting class. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get something different because one teaching style is different than another. Your learning style might be more entertained, or entertained's not the right word, more activated by one instructor than the other. So you might get stuff differently. Even if it's the exact same curriculum, you might get something differently from one instructor from the other. That medical class, man, you have to refresh that. It is probably time I refresh a trauma class. Those are my favorite classes. Let's see, situational awareness, if that's tied into a firearms class, super awesome. So situational awareness, medical, basic handgun. You need to take a carbine class. A carbine class. You may not ever use that information, but my hell, they are fun. It's a fun class. And you probably need an AR to go with it. So, it's a twofer. Last class. I would probably throw in, and you guys might not like this either, I'd probably throw in like a low light class. So how to use a flashlight while holding a firearm, whether you need a weapons mounted light compared to a handheld light. That's probably a pretty good class to take, especially if you plan on using a firearm to defend your home. That's probably a pretty wise action. So, man, that brings up another thing I want to talk about. So, medical, situational awareness, basic handgun, basic carbine, low light. Those are my 5 classes I think you should take. Put them in any order you want. Probably basic handgun, medical first, and then the rest kind of flow down from there. Oh yeah, low light made me think of something. You guys remember Brian Malinowski? Does that name ring a bell? It should. So one of the rules that got changed was the engaged in business rule. That was one of the things that the ATF said, hey, listen, Biden era rule, if you made any increase on selling something of your own personal property, meaning a handgun or a firearm, rather, let's put it that way. If you made money selling a firearm, you need an FFL. And so the Biden era group was really cracking down on these people. And that's where the name Brian Malinowski should really pop into your brain. He was the one that ran the Bill and Hillary Clinton airport in, was it Arkansas? Man, I'm getting my spaces wrong, but you can look it up. So apparently ATF's like, hey, Mr. Malinowski here, buying lots of guns, selling lots of guns. He's making money. He should have an FFL. You would think the thought process would be, let's go to his work and talk to him. Or we know what time he leaves his house. He has lots of guns, so there could be some physical risk here. Maybe we should just do a traffic stop and talk to him. But no, if the federal agencies don't really have the clearest thought process on how they want to do things, especially if they want to send a message. Again, you can refer back to Ruby Ridge and Waco and the Bundy standoff. Yeah, you can look at any of those to understand what I'm saying when it comes to they like to send a message. This message, in example, or in particular, rather, to the Malinowski family was a early morning no-knock raid where the ATF door kickers taped over the cameras, kicked in his door. Obviously, somebody kicks in your door at wee hours of the morning. You probably think you're getting robbed. You know that you have a gun that you use to defend your house with. Yep, you're going to assess the situation, especially if law enforcement did not address themselves. So, Malinowski, armed, I think he actually sent a round off, but I don't think it hit anybody. I want to say it hit the floor or something like that. I don't remember 100%, but I do remember that First in Stack put a .556 round right in Mr. Malinowski's forehead. Right in front of his family. Yeah, Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. But the bigger problem is apparently the state Justice Department, I think it was Arkansas, they noticed some discrepancies in reports and some other issues. They were trying to find out some information. Now that the ATF said, hey, this is engaged in business rule, we have some issues. So the state said, hey, feds, we need to talk. And what is amazing is it was a bipartisan letter written to the federal government to investigate the ATF's decision-making, protocols, and execution of this warrant. I use that term execution, I guess, quite literally. So that should be interesting. Bipartisan support. It wasn't just all Republicans in the state legislature saying, hey, these guys suck. There's Democrats in there saying, this is a problem. So that should be interesting. I'll do my best to kind of keep in tune with that. What else? Let's see. What else was I going to talk about? I guess in the meantime, we'll talk about this super sexy shirt. Ooh. Huh? Yes. Apparel is available on... Actually, this shirt is not available, from what I remember, on the TikTok shop, because TikTok is funny. But my other shirts... actually, TikTok and the eBay shop, there's two different shops. I probably shouldn't do this on here, should I? There's different merch. There's different merch at different stores. So check it out. eBay, I think it's RMP shop on eBay. I'm pretty sure it's going to be tagged in the description. I tried to do some settings on YouTube. We'll see what happens there. Otherwise, TikTok shop. Range Minded Podcast has a TikTok shop. Probably shouldn't have one on there, but whatevs. The Chinese. Actually, the Chinese don't own it anymore, right? Didn't the feds take it over? Nonetheless, I digress. There's stuff available. Check it out. Please. It'd be great. If you liked today's video, which I know was very unorganized, very scattered, and extremely unedited, because I am not editing any of this out. Maybe some of the pauses. If you liked it, I know, I told you, my brain, I'm super stressed out right now. And so my brain's all over the place. You can like, share, follow, subscribe. I'm getting close to 200 subs. I'm kind of excited about 200 subs. There's no reason that we cannot hit 1,000 subs at the end of this year. Well, at 1,000 subs, I am getting sprayed in the face. I don't think I have my pepper spray down here. Sprayed in the face with pepper spray. I am not joking. I'm absolutely going to get sprayed in the face. And Adam at Spartan Mode is going to be manning the canister. So, that should be fun. I'm going to film it because I know you guys want to see me die. I probably won't die. Maybe I should rethink that because if you recall, a couple years ago, I did almost die. Maybe I should consider something different. Nonetheless, we're going to carry through with it. At 1,000 subs. What else? Yeah, I think I've kind of talked your ear off for a minute. Hopefully, you guys stuck around. Listen, I really, really do appreciate my listeners. I love all you guys. You guys are awesome. There's ways to help out the show. If you want to help out, like I said, the cheapest way is just to comment, subscribe, share. The jive there. That's the easiest and cheapest way to support the show. But if you want to help financially, because I do all this out of my own pocket, there's ways to help. Patreon, super cheap subscription, I guess it is there. Again, clothes. You can jump on the website, rangemindedpodcast.com. There's patches. I've got to get my new patch ordered. My heavens. That's the thing with the Patreon, guys. You sub to the Patreon, you're the first ones to get the new patches out, and you get to help me pick what patch is next. So that's kind of fun. And yeah, I guess that's it. You guys are awesome. Last 3 things I'm letting you go. Stay free, stay safe, and stay range-minded. Okay, adios. Cinco de Mayo. Go get yourself a taco. Bye-bye.